Welcome to Syncreate, a show where we explore the intersections between creativity, psychology, and spirituality. We believe everyone has the capacity to create. Our goal is to demystify the process and expand the boundaries of what it means to be creative. We talk with visionaries and change makers and everyday creatives working in a wide range of fields and mediums, from the arts to science, technology, and business. We aim to illuminate the creative process, from imagination to innovation and everything in between. I'm Melinda Rothouse, and I help individuals and organizations bring their dreams and visions to life.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Gulick, and I'm a writer, educator, and writing coach. We are the co-authors of a book on the creative process, also called Syncreate. At Syncreate, we're here to support your creative endeavors. If you have an idea for a project or a new venture, and you're not sure how to get it off the ground, find us at syncreate.org. Our book, also called Syncreate, walks you through the stages of the creative process so you can take action on your creative goals. We offer resources, creative process tools, and coaching to help you bring your work to the world. We're offering a monthly coaching group starting in January 2025, and we'd love for you to join us. Welcome to the Syncreate podcast, everyone.
It's so good to be here with you in person.
I know, it's kind of crazy in this official podcasting space.
I know. We're usually virtual for these Creative Spark sessions, so happy to be here. And the reason we're here together is also because we recorded our audiobook over the weekend.
It was fantastic.
It was so fun.
It was a great process to sit in my imperfect self, have a great time, and still believe in what we were doing.
Totally. And reread the book and go, wow, this is actually pretty good.
I like our book a lot.
I do too.
I mean, I don't want to be like so self-congratulatory. We are so great. But no, there's a lot of really good pieces of information.
It was like reading it with an impartial eye, and you're like, wow, this is actually pretty helpful.
And for me, the vision of the book was to help people feel empowered. And I feel like that intention is really embedded in the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's great.
For sure. Yeah.
Which leads us to today's podcast quickie is we're focusing on the idea of how creativity opens doors that we didn't imagine it would open.
Yes.
And this is in alignment with our goal to have people have more joy and a greater sense of empowerment with creativity. And I think related to that is divesting ourselves from being solely interested in product.
Yeah.
So we want to it's not just process that we want to celebrate and illuminate and bring to the forefront so people feel more empowered, and because we're so surrounded by product. But there's this other aspect we want to focus on today is what has happened in your life since you've said yes to your creativity?
Yeah.
So for me, I think about my younger self who was an aspiring writer with such a different background from the mainstream world, and would I ever break in? And that was solely focused on a product. And then developing a reflective practice of hey, what's creative done for me? I feel like I do a lot for creativity, so I'm not just in it like a one-way street.
Yeah, for sure.
But it has opened so many doors, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So in your life as a creative, can you think of one or two ways or things or people or experiences that creativity has that you never imagined would be part of your life?
Yeah. Well, so for almost as long as I can remember, I started out my creative journey as a singer. Mm-hmm. And so, I did perform, as a soloist, but always also in choirs and different musical groups and theater and a cappella and bands.
You were singing out the wahoo, it sounds like.
Over the years, right? And so that is, community is inherent in that. And I think especially when you're singing with other people, there's this blending of voices that happens that's completely magical.
Sounds wonderful.
And it leads to really deep connections.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of my, close friends in college were other singers, people who I sang with in a cappella or in, opera workshops or other things like that. And, many of my longest friendships are people that I met through creativity in some form or fashion.
Awesome.
Yeah. How about you? And I'm curious as a writer. So, we've talked about writing being kind of a solitary activity by nature. But yeah, so as a writer in your journey, like how did you come to connect with community?
Well, I think there's so much myth around the solo, tortured, suffering writer that I really, through osmosis, had absorbed.
Yeah.
And, and I think there's a certain part of why people get drawn to creativity is like, it's tortured and so am I. And,
Right.
So like, oh, it's a match made in heaven, suffering together. And like, so like, and recognizing that it is through other people in the writing process that we get better. We get the perspective. We get the feedback, when we get the judicious feedback that says, I think this is really strong, but maybe it needs more dialogue. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, I couldn't figure that out on my own. Mm-hmm. And recognizing that we can't see some of those things for ourselves, particularly as beginners.
Yeah.
So I think the community and workshopping, like in getting feedback from people, and a lot of it was introduced to me in academic settings that were a little toxic, a little based on the model that came out of the Iowa Writers Conference. There's a fantastic book if there are writers out there who are looking for a way to kind of heal themselves if they've had bad experiences with creative writing workshops. It's the Anti-Racist Writing Workshop by Felicia Rose Chavez. It's so good, so healing, so wonderful. If you want to reclaim something from yourself, for yourself, not from yourself. But the other thing I would say is like, how has my life opened up since I said yes to creativity? And the thing that really sticks out in my mind is the short version is this writer from Denmark and I got published by the same small independent press. Mm-hmm. And so we met, he came to Austin and we met each other. He had a book release and kind of hosted him. So wonderful, so wonderful. And he's like, hey, if you're ever coming to Europe, say hello. And so he and his wife own olive vineyards, olive trees in Tuscany. So we went and picked olives with him and his wife and daughters in Tuscany, and then had fresh squeezed, olive juice, and just had this wonderful lunch in the Italian hillside. And like, I never would have imagined that that's where becoming a writer could have led me.
Yeah.
And I think, so that's like the movie version of it. There we are. It's all picturesque. But then I think the other ways is just like how you get to say yes to other people.
Yeah.
Because people have said yes to you. Oh, yes, I believe in your idea. And how can you get there? And I think that's another part of it for me.
Yeah, I love that. And then just in such a contrast to like, as you were talking about these writing workshops where and I think this is true in art school too, traditionally, where there's like the critique and it can be brutal, and people feel like they've been sort of like torn down in the process of going to art school or to school for writing or whatever it might be, so I love that we're kind of turning that a bit. And of course, we're not the first to do that, but to say like, okay, well, what does creativity actually open up? And I'm just thinking of all the, just doing this podcast, all the incredible, amazing, creative, interesting people that I've met all over the world that I get to talk to.
It's so awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome. And I just to re-emphasize what I said at the beginning is that that's not about product. That's about connection.
Yes.
And I think that's really what we want to highlight today is the ways that creativity can be such a connective force in our lives.
Yes.
And I think a practice of reflection can help build that.
Yeah.
So do you have a pro tip around this?
I do. I just want to add like just a couple other quick things. First of all, like you don't have to be a creator necessarily to participate in creative community. I'm just thinking about like we've got ACL Festival that just finished here in Austin. And, so many music fans going out and going to the festival and like meeting other people and hearing their favorite bands and feeling like a part of something. So that's another way, even if you're not actually creating, but supporting others, going to concerts, going to openings, events, performances, whatever that is.
Absolutely, because like the artist in a vacuum is not healthy, right? And so the audience or reader is just as important as the artist themselves because there's a synergy that's happening between the two.
Yeah. And in most cases, when we create any form of art or expression, it's to communicate something. Yeah. So the audience or the receiver is so important. And then just the one other thing I was thinking about is, we both teach and coach, right? But I'm thinking specifically in the classroom around writing, creativity, whatever it is, that's another form of community, and I see myself not as somebody who's like delivering information to students, but basically somebody who's facilitating and holding space for other people to explore their creativity.
I would only add to that to explore and connect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly. So, yes, our pro tip today is we really want to encourage you to reflect on how creativity has opened doors for you. Again, whether as a creator or as an audience member, as a reader, as a listener, whatever that might be. And also to take one action, something concrete that you can do today, this week, soon, that might open another door to community. So maybe attending a reading, going to an open mic, going to a gallery opening, supporting other artists, and see how that opens up a sense of creative community for you.
Find and connect with us on YouTube and social media under Syncreate, and we're now on Patreon as well. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and leave us a review.
And again, please join us for our Syncreate monthly coaching group starting in January of 2025. We're recording today at Record ATX Studios in Austin, in person together with Charlotte, which is so wonderful. And the podcast is produced in collaboration with Mike Osborne at 14th Street Studios here in Austin. Thanks so much for being with us, and see you next time.